I'm not sure if there is any meteorologist calling it a 7-Eleven microwave burrito, but that's exactly what it looks like. It's cold right down the fucking middle. We aren't used to this shit around here. What? I told one of my clients, it's up north, he lives in Wisconsin, I said, would you come down here and get your weather? I think it's drunk. I taped my door. And the cat totally did not want to go outside because it could feel the cold air coming off the door. I tape up the door, and it was like night and day. And the cat all of a sudden is like, hey, I want to go outside. I'm like, you can't go outside now. I taped up the door. Anyway. You know what's to blame for the power outages associated? Ooh. No, sir, I don't like it. I've got my scarf on. And I do not want to see what my electric bill looks like next month. Holy shit. But at least I'm one of the lucky people that has electricity. I've got another picture from Texas. This is Houston last night. So outside of the city is blacked out. Looking at the neon glow of empty office buildings. Ladies and gentlemen, you really are living through a late-stage capitalist hellscape. I like the way Respectable Lawyer put it. Our cold evening sky is haunted by the obscene radiant glow of empty corporate-owned skyscrapers, while 5 million Texans freeze in the dark. Do you know what? You know what Tucker Carlson blames for the blackout? Green energy. Oh shit. Oh shit. I don't have any sound. Hold on. This is from Tucker Carlson last night.
Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson.
Oh, hold on. You guys can't see. What kind of amateur hour am I running over here, right? Old Tuggy boy.
Welcome to Tucker Carlson tonight. Happy Monday. Well, the Green New Deal has come, believe it or not, to the state of Texas. And we're here with the report. How's it working out so far? Well, the good news is all that alternative energy seems to have had a remarkable effect on the climate, as intended. Last night, parts of Texas got to temperatures that we see in Alaska. In fact, they were the same as they were in Alaska.
I only cranked it up a degree from where I normally keep it. Because I'm like, you can't put that much load, and that's just because I'm sitting here right now.
The windmills froze, so the power grid failed. Millions of Texans woke up this
But he's talking about the windmills failing. Now there are windmills, and this is the reason why I tried to rip the video, because it's
purified.
Gonna go away on me.
Well, the good news is all that alternative energy seems to.
But it's because
effect on the climate, as intended. Last night,
it's Texas. They didn't think to, put de-icer in the windmills.
In fact, they were the same as they were in Alaska. So global warming is no longer a pressing concern in Houston. We've solved that.
What? What?
The bad news is they don't have electricity. The windmills froze, so the power grid failed. Millions of Texans woke up to boil their water because with no electricity, it couldn't be purified. The ironically named Electric Reliability Council of Texas, which oversees the grid, had no solution to any of this. They simply told people to stop using so much power to keep warm. So in Houston, hundreds.
Well, I mean, rolling blackouts were their solution.
To keep from freezing to death. Some people in Texas.
Turns out it wasn't rolling blackouts, though.
That's what happens when it gets that cold. Later this week, we'll learn just how many more as they tried to keep warm with jury-rigged heaters and barbecues and.
I don't know what's like. I'm on Fox.com. I don't know what's going on.
Even advanced societies become primitive and dangerous.
Even Fox doesn't want me to watch Tucker Carlson, and you shouldn't watch Tucker Carlson either.
Rolling blackouts in a purportedly first world state that is slipping steadily into chaos. But in Texas? Who saw that coming? And not just because Texas is mostly Republican. If there's one thing you would think Texas would be able to do, it's keep the lights on. Most electricity comes from natural gas, and Texas produces more of that than any place on the continent. They're huge natural gas deposits.
Well, at least he's acknowledging that.
Texas is an oil and gas state, famous.
Yeah, yes.
Running out of energy in Texas is like starving to death at the grocery store. You can only do it on purpose. And Texas did.
Wait.
Rather than celebrate and benefit
what is he trying to
from vast natural resources, politicians took the fashionable route and became recklessly reliant on so-called alternative energy, meaning windmills. 15 years ago, there were virtually no wind farms in Texas. Last year, roughly a quarter.
So the Republicans became overly reliant on wind energy because they're libtard. What's it? What?
Virtuous about destroying the landscape and degrading the power grid. Just last week, Governor Greg Abbott proudly accepted something called the Wind Leadership Award, given with gratitude by a company getting rich from green energy. So it was all working great until the day it got cold outside.
So it's green energy is getting rich, but like
they are, and people in Texas died.
The oil industry is not getting rich.
On January 6th, by the way, just for reference. Now we're telling you all of this not to beat up on the state of Texas. It's a great state, actually. But to give you some sense about what's about to happen to you, to every state.
I'm not exactly sure what his point
Here's
is.
The new president explaining his plan.
In my view, we've already waited too long to deal with this climate crisis. We can't wait.
Also, Tucker is wrong. You should already know that I've got evidence refuting what he says.
To confront the existential threat of climate change. It is an existential threat.
But we're going to give him his platform, though, because we wouldn't want to censor a conservative.
Existential threat, ambitious plan. You hear those phrases a lot, and you'll notice that they are.
He just wants to throw a lot of scary words out there with those piercing blue eyes.
Higher energy prices
and that furrowed brow.
Already up, in case you haven't noticed. Electricity will follow. Higher costs hurt the weakest. Inflation always does. But it's worse than that. Green energy inevitably means blackout.
Biden has already destroyed the economy.
Technology progresses.
Pack it up and go
As
home.
of right now, and the current state of technology, that is true. Green energy means a less reliable power grid, period. It means failures like the ones we're seeing now in Texas.
Like everybody in my chat already is aware that there are
Again, that is true.
windmills in the Antarctic that function just fine.
Spewing carbon in his private jet to lecture the rest of us about a topic he personally knows nothing about. Private sector jobs and how more.
That's true, but I mean, the number of oil jobs is shrinking anyway.
The President of the United States has expressed in every comment.
That's exactly right.
The need to grow the new jobs that pay better, that are cleaner. That, I mean, you know, you look at the.
Well, thank God.
Black lung for a miner, for instance, and measure.
I honest to God had to explain to somebody the other day the difference in. Like the opinion blocks on Fox News and MSNBC, I was like, they all do it. They're news during the day, and then they switch to opinion shows, like at 5 o'clock.
So hear us, please.
They didn't know that there was like a delineation
John Kerry
there.
Has a plan for you. Settle down. John Kerry's here. Now the old plan, you'll remember.
They had like opinion shows for their morning shows in the morning drive time.
Guys in pickup trucks were going to run the internet after we sent their jobs to China. That was the plan. Learn to code. Guys in T-shirts. In the end, of course, we just imported people from China to code. So that didn't actually happen. But John Kerry has another.
Yo.
High school educated rural people are going to be wind turbine technicians. So what they used to do with transmissions, whatever it is that was, they're going to
maybe
put bearings in them or lube them or something. So
rich
everybody
man
wins.
baby that's the heir to
Now, it's
a
possible that John
frozen
Kerry
food
actually
fortune?
believes that. Maybe he's
Is
never
that who
been
you were
20 feet
referring
of a
to?
wind turbine. Possible. He definitely doesn't live near one. They don't have wind farms in Aspen or Martha's Vineyard, and they're not getting them. John Kerry himself once fought to keep
Tucker will make sure of that because that's where he
summer
lives.
house on Nantucket. Well, that's hypocritical, you might say. Yeah, obviously. But it's not surprising.
Tucker probably has a house down the street from John Kerry.
As a rule, live very far from wind farms. People who live near wind farms
think he lives in
have a
Connecticut,
totally
actually.
different view. And why wouldn't they? How'd you like a massive power plant in your backyard, humming and buzzing and chopping up birds? That's what a wind turbine is. If you're ever in rural America, go see one for yourself.
That's a weird argument to make. How would you like a Keystone pipeline running through your backyard, Tucker?
The environment? Wind farms are one of those ideas you can only support if you don't know too much about them.
Oh, really?
That's why there's never been mass popular support for them. No large group of citizens has ever demanded that some Goldman Sachs-backed company destroy the natural environment with Chinese-made windmills that don't work when it's cold out. Wait, more expensive and much less reliable? Ugly, inefficient, and made by people who hate us, and we can kill endangered species?
Made by people who hate us? What is he talking about?
No one anywhere has ever said that, but it doesn't matter.
But yet he wants to use oil that comes from Saudi Arabia. This motherfucker has gone completely unhinged.
Regulated prices. Everyone else gets a moral lecture about climate change. And anyone who complains about any of it gets called a Nazi by Cory Booker. Watch.
What?
There's a lot of people now that are blowing back on the Green New Deal. They're like, oh, it's impractical. Oh, it's too expensive. Oh, it's all of this. If we used to govern our dreams that way, we would have never gone to the moon. And when the planet has been in peril in the past,
Edit.
who came forward to save Earth from the scourge of Nazi and totalitarian regimes? We came forward.
Oh, it's impractical, mocks a guy who's literally never had a job. Except your windmills, bigots. You hear that a lot. You're about to hear it a whole lot more. The problem is that demagogues like Cory
Has Tucker ever done anything besides host a show?
know what a wind farm is. They don't know how to run a power grid or anything else for that matter. They talk, they brag, but they don't build anything, much less fix or maintain it.
Is Tucker implying he knows how to run a power grid? I'm so baffled by all of this.
Take a look at what they have done to our cities. Not a single major American city is prettier or more functional than
And
it
it's
was in 1950.
It's a Tucker
70 years ago.
exclusive.
The parks that previous generations so lovingly built are filled with vagrants and junkies. The monuments they constructed are covered with spray paint. Public transportation is a disgrace. It's filthy. The streets are dangerous. Are you really surprised that Cory Booker was once the mayor of
Does
Newark,
Tucker know anything about public transportation?
much less understand your wind farm? None of these people can. It's bad enough that they can.
The only thing I know Tucker from was like he wore a bow tie on MSNBC. Or maybe he was on CNN first. Maybe it was Crossfire. And then he went over to MSNBC. After that show got canned. He was on CNN on like Crossfire when that was still a thing, and then he went to MSNBC. He was like Rachel Maddow's foe for the like end of the Bush years, beginning of the Obama years. Maybe it might have been entirely the Obama years. Rachel Maddow might not have been on MSNBC just yet. By the way, I have no concept of time whatsoever. Everything was the other day to me. No clue. I'll tell my friends like that was the other day. No, it was like 7 years ago. Oh, okay. My bad. I'm a stoner though. So the real reason that the Texas blackouts are occurring it doesn't actually have anything to do with windmills. This is Gizmodo. More than 4 million people are still without power in Texas on Tuesday morning after a serious winter storm jacked up energy prices across the U.S. and froze key infrastructure in the state, like clockwork. Reports of frozen wind turbines in Texas have given conservatives a new scapegoat in their unending battle to smear renewable energy. The real story is much more complicated than that. I still don't think... Fuck yeah, I'm not high enough for this. I'm glad you brought that up. Oh, I can't ever imagine that Tucker would have some sexist quotes. Doesn't surprise me at all. About half of Texas heats their homes with natural gas. About half do it with electricity, and about half our power plants also consume natural gas to make the electricity. According to Joshua Rhodes, a research associate at the University of Texas. Part of the state's power outages comes down to the fact that its infrastructure was designed to withstand extreme heat, not cold. Rhodes explained that while the grid is prepared for power surges during the summer, when people crank up their AC units, winters in Texas are usually so mild that power plants take time off for routine maintenance. Power plants in Texas are also not winterized for this kind of weather. But the idea of frozen wind turbines is a catchy one, and predictably, fossil fuel fans have latched on to these blackouts as proof positive that we simply can't trust wind. Of course, Rep. Lauren Boebert on Tuesday tweeted, "You know how you unfreeze frozen windmills? By sending up a helicopter that shoots out chemicals onto the blades. You need fuel for the helicopters. Keep that in mind when you're thinking how green windmills are. Never mind that this isn't actually how modern turbines, which have built-in de-icing systems, work. But it wasn't just QAnon elected politicians rushing to place blame. Even the Wall Street Journal editorial page. The Biden administration's plan to banish fossil fuels is a greater existential threat to Americans than climate change. Wow! Conveniently, both these viewpoints ignore the fact that wind turbines aren't exactly alone in failing in the cold. Apparently, it's freezes in chemicals that they use with the natural gas, which 50% of the energy in Texas is natural gas. It's true that Texas has the most installed wind capacity of any state in the country. Wind can supply up to 60% of power in the state. ERCOT only plans for around 25% of electricity to be from wind in the winter. Natural gas, on the other hand, makes up around half of the state's electricity generation. I also saw graphs that indicated wind production of electricity was actually up. It's been up in the last few days. Probably to account for the frozen pipes used in natural gas. The other big story today, House Democrat sues Trump, Giuliani, and two far-right groups over the Capitol riot. Democratic Representative Benny Thompson is suing former President Trump, the Proud Boys, and the Oath Keepers. The lawsuit filed on Thompson's behalf by the NAACP accuses Trump and the other defendants of violating the 1871 Ku Klux Klan Act by trying to interfere in Congress's certification of the Electoral College vote count. The legislation was part of a series of enforcement acts at the time intended to protect the enfranchisement of black citizens from violence and intimidation. That makes a lot of sense.